Let's talk about the last 15 balls of the Rajasthan Punjab match because, you know, we have to. They were funny and weird and great and mad. Let's start with Chris Morris, the most expensive cricketer in the history of cricket. Well, not the most expensive. The most expensive publicly bought cricketer who isn't getting paid off the books other amounts. But he was playing like someone who was not paid so much money. He was completely out of control. He couldn't actually put the ball anywhere he wanted. You know you're bowling so bad that you have to leave the field and change your shirt. How'd you go today, mate? Wow, I didn't go too well. I had to change my shirt. I was bowling so bad. Never a good sign. But he was bowling when the last 15 balls started, but obviously he was bowling slightly before that. So let's just have a look at the first 3 balls of the third last over. His first ball, Aiden Markram hit him for a 6 so far that I'm still not sure they'll ever be able to find that ball again. It seemed like at that moment the game was completely gone. 2 more singles happened, including the single that brought up the partnership between Nicholas Pooran and Markram of 50 off 28 balls. That seems really good to me, 50 off 28 balls. At this point, Punjab needed 10 of 15 balls with 8 wickets in hand, 2 guys at the crease who were smoking and set smokers, if you will. And then something really weird happened. Morris got the yips again, a bit like he had earlier in the day, the change your shirt spell. And he bowled another full toss that almost bowled Markram. I don't know if that was just because of the dip or Markram just didn't pick it very well, but it could have bowled him. And so he basically bowled a waist-high full toss that was, you know, a dot ball. And it was almost a wicket. He followed that up with another 2 full tosses. Chris Morris just could not actually hit the pitch. The first was a low one that easily could have been squeezed away for 4. And the next one was another slow up, waist-high one that seemed to actually frighten Pooran a little bit, who lost it just for a second as he thought it was coming at him. So much so that only knocked it on the offside for a single. Morris really should have ended the match in this over, and not in a good way for his team. But the batters were so worried he was going to beam them in the face, and yet he still somehow managed to get the ball beneath their waist. So he bowled full tosses that barely went for any runs, which is, you know, an art, I suppose. Not a good art. Enter Mustafizur Rahman. And anyone who's been on this channel will know that I'm obsessed with the Fizz and have been for quite some time now.
Who's your favourite cricketer?
Mustafizur Rahman. The Fizz.
I'd been stalking him specifically in the early part of the IPL because I felt that after his shoulder injury, he'd never quite been the same again. But maybe, just maybe, he was coming back to that great bowler. And if he was good in the first part of the IPL, he was even better when he played for Bangladesh recently. So I've been hoping that he's back. And by back, I mean potentially the best death bowler in the world. As he once was for, you know, like a very small period of time. So he was bowling to Pooran and he decided to come wide of the crease and create an angle. And that meant the first 2 balls of his over were dot balls, which is great. That angle, though, was created by him coming from extremely wide. Like, so wide that, to me, when I first looked at it, I thought those must be back foot no balls. And I don't know if the third umpires automatically check for this or not, but maybe they checked them and they were okay. They seemed like no balls to me. Not that I really spent that much time looking, because at that stage the game was over, and you know, other than nerds like me who actually care about back foot no balls, no one cares. No one else is interested, really. The game was over, right? But it is worth thinking about the last 5 balls that have been delivered. There have been 3 full tosses that have gone for 2 runs, and then 2 potential no balls that maybe weren't called. In 5 balls, they managed to score 2 runs, almost get bowled off a waist-high full toss, and give up another one, and miss out on potentially at least 1, but probably 2, possibly 2 no balls. The Fizz isn't bowling those big cutters that made him famous all those years ago, partially because this wicket isn't spinning, but he's just using his angles and his nous and his speed to be able to trick the batters. Markram and Pooran really can't get him off the middle of the bat, and they just can't get him away, and Markram is even dropped at one stage. They get 4 singles off the over, which actually, considering how well it was bowled, seems quite decent. So we're about to get to the last over, but just before we get to the last over, let's change it up a little bit here. Let's talk about Rajasthan's last 3 overs when they were batting. They were batting pretty well throughout most of the innings and looked like they got to put on a very big total, and all they had to do really was kick on at the death. They did not kick on at the death. In their last 3 overs, they scored 17 runs and lost 5 wickets. And I remember thinking at the time, okay, the wickets are coming and sometimes new batters can struggle here, but it just felt a little bit like the air had gone out the ball and it was harder to hit boundaries at this point. And I made a little mental note to myself that Punjab would like to be just ahead of the game as much as possible in their chase. They didn't want to leave it to the last couple of overs. And to be honest, once they got to needing 10 or 15, I kind of felt like they had already done what they needed to do. maybe they felt it as well. And Pooran and Markram were actually smashing the ball up until that point. They were feeling confident enough that they thought they could have hit another boundary. But when they struggled to get the fizz away in his over, I was starting to think it's a lot harder to hit boundaries now than it felt, 10 or 11 balls ago. Karthik Tyagi came on to bowl, and of course he had done well for the India under-19s once in a crucial time. But I just figured, I wonder what he's like when he's bowled the last over in the IPL. It turns out when he's bowled the last over in the IPL, it has not gone particularly well for him. He's only done it twice before, and that's not a lot of balls. That's 12. As you probably guessed. The last time he did it, he went for 9 runs, which is okay. It's about par, I suppose. Maybe even slightly above par. The time before that, he went for 27 runs. That's not so close to par. That means he had an economy rate of 18 when it comes to bowling the last over of an IPL match. It's only from 12 balls, but you can't be that confident, can you? And his first ball was a full toss. And again, you would have expected a potential boundary to come from that. Or, maybe a 2, maybe even a single. They got no runs from that. Next ball was a full ball, and Markram tried to finish it and was probably annoyed that he'd missed the full toss before that, and he just dragged the ball out to square leg, and they got 1. It was now Pooran's chance to finish it off, and to be fair, he looked even in better form than Markram did. He decided to open the face and run the ball down to third man. And he did exactly that, except for the fact that before it got to third man, he happened to run it straight to the wicketkeeper, and he was out. It was a wide full ball. It was decent enough, but, straight to the keeper. So now they need 3 from 3, and Tyagi bowls a wide. The only thing is that it's not called a wide because Deepak Hooda, the new batter, has come in and it's moved across the crease. And the umpire decides not to give it a wide. I don't really understand. Some umpires seem to give these as wides. Some umpires seem to not give these as wides. It was technically a wide in that it was outside the wide line, but it was not given a wide. Make of that of what you will. The funny thing is, though, he did the exact same thing next ball. And this time, Hooda got an edge and was caught behind. Tyagi had bowled 2 wides and had got a dot ball and a wicket. Now Punjab needed 3 runs in 1 ball, and for the first time in, 14 overs or so, they were the underdogs in this game. Fabian Allen came out to bat. Tyagi bowled another wide ball, not an actual wide this time, but a wider delivery. Fabian Allen missed it, and somehow they needed 10 off 15, and they lost the game. And Tyagi's magical over had 2 wides and a full toss in it, but it also only went for 1 run. In the last 15 balls, we had 4 full tosses and 2 potential no balls and 2 potential wides and 2 wickets, 7 singles, 4 batters, 3 bowlers, 8 dot balls, and 15 balls of just, madness. Utter madness. I'm not going to lie to you and say this was a great T20 game because you probably saw it and it was mistake riddled and weird and lots of stuff happened and it looked like 2 teams who were struggling to maybe get to 5th place were bumping up against each other. But it was wonderfully strange. It was a proper mad, crazy T20 game. And this puts Punjab at 3 wins and 6 losses. A game and a half behind Mumbai in 4th spot and Rajasthan in 5th spot. Earlier this season, it seemed like all hope was lost when Punjab's captain's appendix had burst. Today, it would feel roughly the same when they managed to not chase 10 runs in 15 balls with 8 wickets in hand. But maybe this time it wasn't the captain's appendix that burst, but any hope that they had of slipping into the finals?